Welcome to Recovery Demystified, a show where we explore our relationship to substances from a radical, non-religious, and empowering lens. Our sobriety is not a purity contract. It is an invitation to become curious about ourselves and find our own unique paths to growth and healing. If you've been questioning the role of alcohol or drugs in your life and haven't found the resources that you need, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Hello. Welcome back to Recovery Demystified. I'm your host, Early. I'm so happy to have y'all here today. What did you think about the introduction? I've been milling over a bunch of different things of how to introduce this show since it first started, and nothing has ever really gelled. There's nothing I've barely been super happy with. So this is my next attempt, and we will see how it ages. I just kind of want people to know what they're getting into in the first few seconds. People generally these days have kind of like a low attention span, so I'm just like, here it is. This is what it's going to be like, just so you know, so you don't have to sit around and wait for 20, 30, 40 minutes to try to like figure out what the vibe is. Like, here's the vibe. Anyway, I'm so proud of y'all for surviving another week. Amazing job. What did you learn about yourself this week? What did you try that was new? What's working for you? How is the scientific study of yourself going? I think you're doing a great job, and I really believe in you. I know you can do this. Today, what I want to talk about is more books and podcasts. As we know, for me personally in recovery, books and podcasts fucking saved my life. I just absolutely gobbled them up. The main portion of my recovery diet is self-help books and self-help podcasts, and that shit just helped me so much. It literally saved my life. So I'm still out here reading all of these books and listening to more podcasts and trying to filter through and get the best of the best for y'all. And if there's something y'all are listening to or reading that you think is really good, send it to me. Holler at me in the email, info@recoverydemystified.com. I'm always looking for more recommendations, especially about podcasts and other audio material like that. The well is running a bit dry on that, and I'm getting into new cracks and crevices of the audio recording world out there. But yeah, I know there's got to be a lot of other good stuff. I just need to get turned on to it. And I have a couple of friends that will send me stuff, and I'm super grateful for y'all. You know who you are. And books too. I mean, hit me up with any recommendations, anything you want me to check out and review if you think it will help the people in their recovery. That's just really important. And all of my number 1, 2, 3, and 4 favorite best book and podcast recommendations are in that dry January book and podcast review. So if you're new to the podcast, I would definitely go back for those. Those are like the heavy hitters, the gold medal winners, the ones we're going to throw a parade for at some point. The ones that saved my life are in the dry January review is what I'm trying to say. Anyway, all right, let's get into it. The first book that I read this month was How to Eat to Change How You Drink by Brooke Scheller. And it's really interesting because for a long time I've said that once whatever you're addicted to is physically detoxed from your body, the rest of the battle is between your ears, and you have to like learn how to reconcile with your thoughts and choose wise actions based on your thoughts. And I'm sort of now expanding my view on that because there's more to it than just our thoughts, or in fact, our thoughts are influenced by a more complex system of this meat sack that we live in called our body. And this book was so interesting to be able to learn about how, like, for instance, alcohol affects the endocrine system and digestion and all sorts of other different stuff like that, and how to eat in a healthy way. She calls it functional sobriety. So we have topics like the relationship between alcohol and nutrition, the gut and the microbiome, the brain and neurotransmitters. She's got a whole bunch of recipes in here at the end, which I don't know what is up with it, y'all, but I literally cannot follow a recipe to save my life. So recipes are not for me. I just kind of look at whatever pile of vegetables I have and I'm just like, I don't know, just make whatever. But if you're into recipes, she's got a ton of those. So what's interesting is she just goes into like the functions of like blood sugar and just all sorts of different stuff, how alcohol affects all of that, and then different ways you can regulate yourself with your diet. And it makes perfect sense. Like, of course, our diet affects all of the systems in the body, which affect how we feel, which affects our thoughts, which is going to affect our stress levels and whether or not we're like reaching out for a drink or a drug or whatever. So I'm reformatting my whole concept that the rest of recovery is not just in your mind and your thought process, because what you eat and how you treat your body affects your thought processes, and your thought processes affect what you eat and how you treat your body. So it is a lot more complex than that. And just like merely the concept of being hangry, I think, is a really good example. And she relates this too into like blood sugar and her recommendations for the functional sobriety that she talks about. So it's like, okay, if you're hangry and you don't recognize it and you just think you are angry and you think that alcohol is going to calm you down, you're not going to think of eating, right? And she says the same thing, like, okay, if we're going through a blood sugar dip and we recognize it as an alcohol craving, how about instead we are able to go and eat something that is nourishing, that helps us with our blood sugar issues that are created by alcohol that we just like recognize as triggers to drink. And this book is not too technical. It's really easy to read, but it is still quite in depth. And I really enjoyed it, and I learned a lot from it, and I'm a super big fan. It's like science-based and it's empowering, and she's not telling you what to do. She's not telling you have to be like 100% completely sober from here on out. She's like, here's some things you can do to like reduce your cravings, get in control of yourself, and keep it together, girl, you know? So I'm a pretty big fan of this book. I can't remember if she had... No, she did. Yeah, she definitely had addiction herself, which is how she got into this. She was like a nutritionist who was just spiraling down from addiction. And I really love when the authors of these books have experience with addiction themselves. Typically people do, because addiction is so stigmatized. There's not a lot of compassion for it, except within our community and people who have already been through addiction themselves. So I love when the authors of the book have been through it, because it helps them have that compassion. It helps them have the understanding and the empathy. And she's got that. So I recommend How to Eat to Change How You Drink by Brooke Scheller. The next book I read this month was called Dry, a memoir by Augusten Burroughs. And I know I've been talking about how I'm sort of apprehensive to even talk about the memoir books anymore, or like even read them, because they're viscerally triggering for me. And this one was, but it wasn't so bad. I don't know. I think, here's why I think. A lot of the memoir books are really focused on the rock bottom shit. They're really focused on the spiraling part, the benders, the suffering, the drama of that, which I think makes for an entertaining book. Perhaps for like people, I don't know, different strokes, right? But this book, I think, was a lot easier for me to read, because the very beginning is his suffering, and then like 85% of the book is his recovery and his experience with that. And there's there's some stuff with his drinking that's like triggering and activating for me, but this book did not do that thing that some of the other memoir books do, which is like entirely overwhelm me and make me feel kind of flustered, like I need to put the book down. And so I really did enjoy it for that reason. Also, he's gay, which we love. Like, how am I just accidentally buying these gay memoirs from thrift books? I don't know. Maybe Thrift Books knows I want the gay ones, but this is another one that Thrift Books just was like, maybe you want to read this addiction memoir. And I was like, you're right. Maybe I do. And then I crack it open and I'm like, he's gay. Thank God. Bless the gays, you know. But there's like some hard topics in here, like his bestie has AIDS, which is a super struggle thing to hear about with gay folks, of course. And I don't know, I feel like a lot of, the addiction memoirs are typically not like entirely super happy stories. Can you hear my dog coughing? Sweetie, are you okay? Sorry if you can hear my dog hacking in the background. Poor thing. I'm recording at home again, y'all. Not a sterile environment. It's not the podcast booth. at the public library. But yeah, this book, I mean, it's another one too where it's like, okay, you know, rich guy can have whatever he wants type shit. So that kind of stuff, I'm just like, eye roll. But, you know, rich people get addictions too. It's not a class exclusive issue. But this book is great. He's like a really, really, really good writer. His job in the book is advertising. So it's not like writing is his trade. But this book is just, it's one of those ones I didn't want to put down, or anytime I got a chance, I was like, oh, thank God I can like pick up that book and see what happens next. But yeah, if you're looking for a memoir about alcohol addiction that is more focused on the person's recovery than it is about their addiction, and you love gay people, this would be one that I recommend. Dry, a memoir by Augusten Burroughs. And the last book I want to talk about this month is one that builds on what I was talking about last month. It's another Pema Chodron book. Last month I talked about When Things Fall Apart, and this one is called The Places That Scare You, A Guide to Fearlessness in Difficult Times. And the reason I love both of these books is because in our culture, we are taught to run away from problems, run away from difficult emotions, consider them to be bad, and just avoid them and suppress them and move away from them and not deal with them. And I think it is one of the saddest, most sick parts of our culture, because the complexity of the human experience is really beautiful. And when we push down and shove away and avoid and run from things that are difficult, we are depriving ourselves of the complexity and depth of this one beautiful human existence that we are so lucky to be able to have. So what I love about Pema Chodron is that she's like, let's go to the places that scare us. Let's stop avoiding it and let's face it and realize it's not as scary as we thought it was going to be. And let's learn how to move through our difficulty, our fear, our grief, our sadness. Like, let's move through those scary, dark places with grace and with honor and with an appreciation for this beauty and complexity that exists with all the different emotions that we can experience. And her books, they're just like, it's a Buddhist framework, so there's that always in the background, but her books are just so humanizing and relatable and gentle and loving that it makes the scary places seem less scary, because she's there with you, like holding you, being like, we're gonna try these really gentle, relaxing practices together to help us respect and love and survive through things that we're afraid of. And we've got topics like meeting the enemy, which I wanted to read y'all a couple paragraphs from. She says, the essence of bravery is being without self-deception. However, it's not so easy to take a straight look at what we do. Seeing ourselves clearly is initially uncomfortable and embarrassing. As we train in clarity and steadfastness, we see things we'd prefer to deny. Judgmentalness, pettiness, arrogance. These are not sins, but temporary and workable habits of mind. The more we get to know them, the more they lose their power. This is how we come to trust that our basic nature is utterly simple, free of struggle between good and bad. A warrior begins to take responsibility for the direction in her life. It's as if we're lugging around unnecessary baggage. Our training encourages us to open the bags and look closely at what we're carrying. In doing this, we begin to understand that much of it isn't needed anymore. If we feel distress, embarrassment, or anger, we think we've really blown it. Yet feeling emotional upheaval is not a spiritual faux pas. It's the place where the warrior learns compassion. It's where we learn to stop struggling with ourselves. It's only when we can dwell in these places that scare us that equanimity becomes unshakable. I just love this empowering lens, this like, let's open that bag, let's look at our baggage, and let's let go of it. Let's get rid of the things that aren't serving us anymore. Let's empower ourselves with the ability to tolerate difficult things. And let's be gentle and compassionate with ourselves as we move through it. I absolutely adore her for this. The chapters are really short. It's just like tiny little blips. It's so digestible. And I just think she is such a beautiful heart, and I really appreciate her writing. And I suggest it to anyone who's taking that look inside of themselves to see, where can I shine the light of compassion and where can I find the next step in my healing and my growth? Because I feel like a lot of times we are struggling or having a difficult feeling or a craving or pain, like in our addiction, that is pointing us in the direction that most needs healing. And if we turn away from that, we're denying ourselves the healing that we deserve. So I love, love, love Pema Chodron. Highly suggest her books. And I mean, Buddhism, like, yes, of course, it's like a religion and it is spiritual to an extent or whatever, but it really deals with the human condition, which is these really common, difficult thought processes that we have all had in our minds for thousands of years. And it's just so fucking practical that I think even if you like have a hardcore aversion to religion and spirituality, like you don't have to have either of those things to be able to benefit from the teachings of Buddhism. So I totally invite and encourage anyone to just like stick your toe in the water and explore it and see if it works for you. And if it doesn't, move on and try something else. But keep your mind open and just give it a shot and see. Because before I found Buddhism, I was staunchly, like, if you said the word spiritual to me, I would vomit all over you. But once I started learning about the teachings of Buddhism and applying them in my life, like, I've just experienced so much growth and healing, and I use them as my mental health coping skills every single freaking day. So that's on being open-minded, and I invite everyone just to give it a shot. So I recommend The Places That Scare You, A Guide to Fearlessness in Difficult Times by Pema Chodron. And then I have just a couple of audio resources that I want to talk to y'all about. One is, so someone emailed me because they heard me call out for podcast guests, and we haven't done it yet because I think we're planning on doing their interview in like December or something when they're in the area, so we can use the fancy podcast booth at the library instead of doing the remote recording. But this person said they're working on this zine called How We Handle Harm. It's from the Punch Up Kick Down distro. And if you go on Bandcamp, I'll put a link in the description, but on Bandcamp is someone reading aloud the contents of the zine. So that's why we can put it in the audio category. And it's super cool because it's free. I don't even know where to start, y'all. The way that conflict is resolved in our society is bullshit. And it involves like this pendulum between, if accountability is in the middle, we hardly ever hit that. On one side, there's punishment. And then on the other side, there's minimization or ignoring of harm. And it seems to just be at one of the two extremes. When someone causes harm, we either just completely ignore it, or we reach for punishment, which is like a reflection of the carceral system and the prison industrial complex. And even within radical communities, we live within this framework, and there's a lot of folks like doing the work to like explore things like transformative justice and different ways of accountability, and viewing people not as like a perpetrator and a victim, but like a person who caused harm and a person who has been harmed. And just, I don't know. Anyway, I'm basically disgusted with the way that our society handles harm, which is like prisons and locking people up and the cops and arresting people and cancellation and all of that stuff that is just like not healthy or helpful ways to resolve conflict. And I really admire the anarchists and the queers and the radical people who are rethinking what it could be like to handle harm and how we do this. And it's super relevant to folks in addiction and recovery because, y'all, I mean, human beings, everyone in life is going to harm someone else and be harmed. But it seems to happen quite a lot more when we have addictions because we're not in our right minds and not making great choices. And it tends to be that we cause a bit more harm in those situations. And then when we get into recovery or start questioning our relationship to substances, we're confronted with that harm. And, I'm definitely a part of this. When I was drinking super heavily, I hurt a lot of people very badly. And I didn't have the tools or resources to be able to do what I needed to do to repair that harm. And sometimes you just can't. Sometimes you just have to like do the best you can with your own healing and do what you need to do to never cause that type of harm again. Like sometimes you can't repair those relationships, but I had this like deep empathy and compassion, and I hated that I was hurting people, and I wanted to like find a way to make it better. When I went to AA, it was basically just like, oh, write the person a letter and make your amends or whatever. And it just felt like really simple and not nuanced at all, and not really taking into account the complexity of every different situation where harm was caused. It felt self-fulfilling. It felt selfish. I just did not like the way that the 12 steps handled repair of harm. So I've been searching for more different resources on transformative justice, conflict resolution, and how we can do our best to repair the harm that we caused in our addictions, and how we can heal ourselves if we're in the cycle of abuse. A lot of us that have addictions have childhood trauma. We've been abused. We've experienced sexual abuse or sexual assault. And within the context of our society, where we're silenced, people are encouraged to not talk about that kind of stuff because it's uncomfortable. And if we do talk about it, the only route to go through to try to like facilitate healing is this criminal justice system, which blows and doesn't heal people and is not helpful. That the people that are stuck in the cycle of abuse, it's just important to honor that it's never just a perpetrator and a victim. It's like maybe the person who caused harm has been through a bunch of horrifying shit themselves, and we're just like stuck in this culture that doesn't value community or healing or accountability or conversations or honoring the complexity of what it means to harm and be harmed. So this audio zine, How We Handle Harm, Punch Up, Kick Down Distro, is like, it's focused on conversations of abolition and how we can recognize how harm is caused, and how things from normative society like patriarchy and ableism and sexism and homophobia all seep into radical cultures, and how we are still a reflection of that, and how we can unlearn that and create environments where accountability is possible. So I really, really, really enjoyed listening to this. The only thing I'm going to reach out to the author about to try to edit for next time is they were still saying the phrase like alcohol abuse or like drug abuse. I wish that the author would say alcohol use instead of alcohol abuse. It's sort of the more like modern thing that we do now, because a person is like, just the word abuse has like such a fucked up negative connotation that the more like progressive modern way that we're referring to this now is just alcohol use or drug use, and not drug abuse or alcohol abuse. So that is like the one thing that I wish that they would edit for the next time. But other than that, I'm just like so grateful to have a resource like this to point people to. I'm trying to put together a like more radical harm reparation method for Recovery Demystified, where we can address the harm that we've caused and work to heal ourselves and heal our communities. So I'm excited to use clips from this for that. So I would recommend that y'all go to Bandcamp and listen to How We Handle Harm from the Punch Up Kick Down distro. And then the other thing that I'm so excited to find is a podcast called Love in a Fucked Up World by Deane Spade. And I heard Deane Spade on the Gender Reveal podcast, and I was like, this is exactly what we need. So Deane Spade is like a queer anarchist who's like an abolitionist who has super radical views on stuff and has written a couple of books. And the concept is we depend on each other for our community and our radical movements, right? And when we don't have good relationship skills, that is when movements fall apart. So imagine like a bunch of people trying to do like anti-ICE immigration work or something like that, but the people who are leading it are in a relationship that becomes in conflict with one another. If we don't have the skills to be able to resolve that conflict, the radical work that these people are doing is in jeopardy and could fall apart. And I've been doing, anarchist organizing for, I don't fucking know, whatever. How old am I? 16, 17 years, something like that. And I've just seen it over and over and over that it's like the drama and the interpersonal conflict and the fucking money issues and the dirty dishes and the scabies are like what drive us all apart. And if we were able to learn the things, the emotional tolerance, the conflict resolution that Deane Spade is talking about in Love in a Fucked Up World, then we would be able to like hold our communities together in this way that would allow for us to be able to experience growth and healing and be able to keep up with our radical movement building. And they have on these guests on the podcast, and I'm just, how can I find more queer anarchist podcasts? Like, where did this come from and how can I find more? And I'm just jotting down all the books and all the resources and everything they're talking about. And I'm really excited to explore where this is going to lead me in the future. So very excited to find Love in a Fucked Up World by Deane Spade. I'm going to order the book, hopefully have it read for next month. But yeah, I just think that we need better methods of conflict resolution that are not a reflection of the prison industrial complex and the carceral system and policing that we see in normative society. As radical people, we need to do better. And these people that I've suggested in the audio portion of this are doing that work. And I'm really excited to find these resources. And I think that in our recovery, if we're able to do adequate conflict resolution and build accountability for ourselves and our community, that it's going to like buttress and make stronger our recovery to infinity, you know? So I'm super excited to have these resources. Anywho, y'all, that's about all I've got for you today. How do I do this? I just go babbling on and on for half an hour. It's amazing. That's on autism and special interests. Honestly, like I could babble on for longer if you want. I'll do it again in a couple weeks. But as always, man, like I fucking love you. If you're struggling today, you can do this. Like I believe in you. I'm proud of you for surviving. Drink a glass of water, try something new. Fucking, I'm not telling you what to do. Do whatever you want, but I love you and you can do this. Okay? May you be happy and free. Recovery Demystified is produced and edited by me, Early Brunner. Stevie Pettit made our logo. Our social media manager is Kaylee Bausch. Logan Bragg wrote our beautiful theme music. We are entirely supported by donations as a 501c3 nonprofit. Your tax-deductible donations can be made to our Venmo or to our PayPal at Recovery Demystified. May you be happy and free, dear listener.